Hi guys, this is Taylor, and today I am going to be finally and quickly wrapping up the month of December, which is almost funny because today is currently January 18th. But I am going to try and do this as quickly as possible because one, it is a late wrap-up and no one really likes to watch a late wrap-up, and two, I only read 4 things in December and only 2 of them are worth really talking about at any length. I am going to talk about these in order from what I enjoyed least to what I enjoyed most because I really liked that last month and I thought it worked out well. So the thing that I read in December that I unfortunately enjoyed the least was a short manga story called Chocolate Christmas by Naoko Takeuchi, who is the author of Sailor Moon. Now, Sailor Moon is the only long-form manga that Takeuchi ever wrote, but she did publish a couple of short stories and shorter projects before Sailor Moon, and a lot of these short works have elements that served as prototypes for Sailor Moon, like certain characters or certain plots, and this was definitely one of those. This is about a young girl working at a radio station, and she has a crush on this DJ who hosts this particular show, but she doesn't know his true identity. She's never seen his face. And this is basically a copy and paste of one of the early plot lines in Sailor Moon, which was fine. It was cute. I just didn't get a whole lot out of this beyond maybe the art, which was beautiful, as is every Takeuchi manga. But it was cute to read on Christmas Eve because it does have a holiday element, and overall I would say I'm glad that I read it. I would give it maybe a 3 out of 5 stars. The other kind of silly thing that I read in December was Gold Medal Winter by Dana Freitas. This is a middle grade novel about a Dominican American figure skater trying to make the Olympic figure skating team, and this was obviously just some pure kind of throwaway fun for me because I'm a big fan of figure skating. This novel basically goes down exactly how you would expect it to. I think by page 50 or so I had guessed correctly exactly what was going to happen, like what specifically would happen to each character, what would happen at the Olympics. It was all just really transparent in that way. I did really appreciate the fact that we follow a Dominican American figure skater because Latinas are hugely underrepresented in figure skating and also underfunded by their respective skating federations in real life. And of course I was really taking a magnifying glass to this in terms of its accuracy because that was fun for me, I don't know. So for example, I found it like hugely cliche that she has a triple axel in her repertoire. However, it was much more interesting that our main character was training a quad sal, so I have to give credit to the author for being a little bit more forward thinking. So generally I was happy reading this book and it was definitely a fun experience, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend this unless you're also a big fan of figure skating because, like I said, it is very, very predictable. But for me, in my experience, I had fun with it. I'd probably give it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The third thing that I read in December and something that I really enjoyed was The Flame by Leonard Cohen. This is a collection of poetry, lyrics, and drawings by Leonard, who was probably my favorite lyricist of all time, and this was released posthumously. I do find it really hard to review poetry and to make sense of why something worked for me or why something affected me, but I guess I would just say that the vast majority of these poems made me feel something deeply, as does most of his work. I'll put some of my favorite pieces on the screen here just to give you a little taste. A lot of his work I find to be very brief but very impactful, which is something that I really admire. Like I said, I feel really inarticulate trying to evaluate poetry, but if you like the pieces that are on the screen now and you've never read his poetry or listened to his songs, I would really recommend especially his earlier records. His first record is called Songs of Leonard Cohen and it contains some of my favorite words of all time. As for The Flame, I think this was really beautifully put together by his son and the rest of his team, and I would probably give it about 4 out of 5 stars. And the last thing that I read in December was of course the thing that I enjoyed the most, and that was Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. So Lolita was the last of the books that I had not attempted to read from the list of 10 books that I wanted to get to in 2019. And despite the fact that I kind of thought I would love it, I really did push this off for a long time, so I feel very glad and kind of relieved that I finally read it in 2019. So of course this is maybe the most infamous classic because its main subject is pedophilia, and basically all I can really say is that if you are in the camp that thinks that Nabokov wrote this because of his own inner pedophile, or that it was maybe an attempt at humanizing pedophilia, I really recommend that you read his own comments on his intentions of writing Lolita, because he basically doesn't even entertain that notion. This is not a particularly original assessment on my end, but my take on Lolita is that I think it's meant to be the application of some of the world's most beautiful writing to one of the world's worst things that can possibly happen, and one of the worst, if not the worst, things that a human can really do. So reading this was of course a roller coaster, and it was twisted and it was horrific, but when I think back on my reading experience of Lolita, I don't really think about those things. I think about the beautiful writing, which is the real accomplishment here in my assessment. So I loved Lolita, as I expected I might. It was one of the last books that I read in 2019, and it was the last 5-star that I gave out in 2019. So that's really it. That was the very strange assortment of books that I read in December. I promise I have more year-end content and more beginning of the year content coming out soon. I have my top 10 books of 2019 coming out soon. I have my most anticipated of 2020 coming out. But thank you for sticking around. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!